Some people carry time on their faces like a heavy cloak, while others seem to move through the years untouched, as if something within them quietly protects their vitality. When someone appears younger than their age, society often credits genetics, skincare, or luck. Yet the deeper reasons often lie far beneath the surface. Youthfulness is not only a physical condition. It is a psychological and spiritual state that reflects the relationship a person has with life itself. The first hidden reason is the presence of inner curiosity. People who remain curious about the world maintain a living relationship with experience. Curiosity keeps the mind flexible and alive, preventing the psyche from becoming rigid. When the mind stays open to learning, exploring, and questioning, the body subtly mirrors the openness. A curious spirit refuses to age prematurely because it continues to engage with life as if it were still discovering it for the first time. The second reason lies in emotional processing. Many individuals carry unresolved emotions for years, sometimes decades. These unexpressed feelings slowly shape the body through tension and fatigue. But those who allow themselves to feel, reflect, and release emotions often carry less psychological weight. Their faces remain lighter because they are not burdened by suppressed inner conflicts. Emotional honesty preserves an inner balance that quietly expresses itself through youthful energy. Another hidden factor is a strong connection with solitude. People who are comfortable spending time alone often develop a deeper understanding of themselves. Instead of constantly seeking external validation, they cultivate an inner dialogue that nourishes psychological stability. This relationship with solitude allows the mind to regenerate. Just as sleep restores the body, meaningful solitude restores the psyche, and this restoration often appears as calmness and youthfulness. A fourth reason is authenticity. Many individuals spend enormous energy maintaining social masks, trying to meet expectations that do not truly belong to them. This constant performance exhausts the psyche. However, those who gradually align their actions with their true nature conserve emotional energy. When a person lives authentically, their mind no longer fights against itself. The result is a sense of ease that softens facial expressions and creates an aura of natural youth. The fifth reason is the ability to detach from unnecessary psychological battles. Some people carry every conflict, every criticism, and every past mistake as if it were a permanent identity. Others learn to observe life with a certain distance. They recognize that not every event deserves emotional investment. This mental flexibility prevents chronic stress from shaping their bodies. Their calm perspective allows them to move through life with a lightness that time struggles to diminish. Another important reason is imagination. A vivid inner world nourishes creativity and emotional vitality. People who regularly engage their imagination maintain a living connection with possibility. They do not see life as a fixed script, but as an evolving story. This perspective keeps their energy fluid and adaptive. Imagination invites the psyche to remain playful, and playfulness is one of the most powerful antidotes to aging. The seventh hidden reason involves resilience. Individuals who face difficulties but integrated those experiences into wisdom often radiate a quiet strength. Rather than becoming hardened by suffering, they transform it into insight. This integration prevents bitterness from settling into the body. When hardship becomes meaning rather than resentment, the face reflects maturity without losing vitality. The final reason may be the most subtle, a sense of psychological harmony. When a person gradually aligns their thoughts, emotions, and actions, inner conflict decreases. This harmony creates a calm internal rhythm. Just as a well-tuned instrument produces clear music, a balanced psyche expresses clarity and vitality through the body. Youthfulness, therefore, is not merely the absence of wrinkles or gray hair. It is the visible expression of a mind that remains engaged with life, a heart that processes emotions honestly, and a spirit that continues to grow. When a person lives in such alignment, time may continue to move forward, but something within them remains untouched by its weight. True youth is not something we chase. It is something that emerges when the inner world remains alive. Inner curiosity is one of the quiet forces that keeps the human spirit alive regardless of age. It is the natural impulse to ask questions, explore unfamiliar ideas, and remain open to experiences that challenge one as understanding of the world. While many people associate aging with the slow loss of energy and enthusiasm, the deeper truth is that psychological aging often begins when curiosity fades. The moment a person believes they already know enough about life, the mind begins to close in on itself. Curiosity, however, resists this closure. It keeps the mind flexible, alive, and capable of renewal. A curious mind does not approach life as a finished story, but as an unfolding mystery. Instead of seeing the world through rigid assumptions, it continues to observe, reflect, and learn. This openness prevents the psyche from becoming fixed in repetitive patterns of thought. When individuals stop questioning their beliefs, their mental world becomes narrow and predictable. But curiosity constantly invites new perspectives, allowing the mind to reshape itself through discovery. This mental flexibility naturally influences how a person experiences time, because life continues to feel fresh and meaningful. There is also a subtle emotional energy connected to curiosity. When someone is genuinely interested in understanding people, ideas, and experiences, their attention moves outward rather than collapsing inward. Many individuals become psychologically exhausted because their thoughts circle endlessly around the same worries and limitations. Curiosity interrupts this cycle by redirecting awareness toward possibility. The mind becomes engaged with exploration instead of trapped in repetition. This shift not only nourishes intellectual growth, but also reduces the emotional heaviness that often contributes to a sense of aging. Curiosity also reflects a certain humility toward existence. It acknowledges that life is far more complex than any single perspective can capture. People who maintain this humility rarely fall into the illusion that they have already figured everything out. Instead, they remain willing to learn from unexpected places, from new conversations, unfamiliar environments, and even from their own mistakes. This openness keeps their inner world fluid rather than rigid. Just as water remains fresh because it flows, the psyche remains youthful when it continues to move toward new understanding. Another important aspect of curiosity is its relationship with imagination. A curious person does not only observe reality, but also wonders about the hidden layers beneath it. They ask why people behave the way they do, what unseen forces shape human choices, and what deeper meaning may exist behind everyday events. This habit of questioning stimulates creativity and reflection. It invites the mind to explore possibilities rather than accept surface explanations. Through this process, life becomes an ongoing dialogue between the individual and the unknown. Curiosity also changes how a person approaches challenges. Instead of reacting with fear or resistance when encountering something unfamiliar, a curious mind responds with interest. Difficulties become opportunities to understand something new about oneself or about life. This attitude transforms obstacles into learning experiences rather than psychological burdens. The person remains mentally active and engaged even when facing uncertainty. Over time, this ongoing engagement with life shapes the way a person carries themselves. Their expressions often reveal attentiveness, their conversations show interest, and their presence feels alive rather than fatigued. It is not merely the body that appears youthful, but the entire atmosphere of the person. Curiosity quietly preserves vitality because it keeps the mind connected to growth. As long as the psyche continues to explore, question, and wonder, something within the individual remains untouched by the stagnation that often accompanies age. Emotional release is one of the most overlooked forces shaping the human mind and body. Many people move through life carrying emotions that were never fully felt, understood, or expressed. These emotions do not simply disappear with time. Instead, they settle quietly within the psyche, influencing behavior, thoughts, and even physical tension. When emotions remain trapped beneath the surface, they slowly accumulate, creating an invisible weight that the individual carries everywhere. This internal pressure often manifests as fatigue, irritability, or a persistent feeling of heaviness that cannot easily be explained. Human emotions are not meant to remain frozen. They are living energies that seek movement and expression. When a person allows themselves to feel sadness, anger, disappointment, or grief without suppressing it, the emotion begins to move through the psyche rather than becoming stuck within it. This movement creates psychological space instead of building inner pressure. The mind gradually releases what it no longer needs to hold. Emotional release is not about losing control or being overwhelmed by feelings. It is about acknowledging them honestly and allowing them to pass through consciousness. Many individuals learn early in life to hide their emotions, Social expectations often encourage people to appear strong, composed, or unaffected by difficult experiences. While this may create temporary stability on the surface, the inner world becomes crowded with unresolved reactions. The mind continues to revisit these suppressed emotions, sometimes unconsciously, repeating old conflicts and memories. Over time, this repetition creates a subtle form of exhaustion. The person may not even realize that much of their mental energy is being consumed by emotions that were never allowed to complete their natural cycle. Emotional release restores a sense of inner balance because it interrupts this cycle of suppression. When someone reflects on their experiences and allows themselves to truly feel what was once avoided, the psyche begins to reorganize itself. The mind no longer needs to guard those hidden emotions or protect itself from them. Instead, the experience becomes integrated into the individual understanding of life. What once felt like a lingering wound slowly transforms into insight or acceptance. This process also changes how a person responds to future situations. When emotions are acknowledged rather than buried, the individual develops a deeper awareness of their inner reactions. They become more capable of recognizing when something affects them and more willing to explore why it does. This awareness prevents emotions from accumulating into overwhelming psychological tension. Instead of storing pain indefinitely, the mind processes experiences as they occur. There is also a physical dimension to emotional release. The body often reflects the state of the psyche. Chronic emotional suppression can manifest as tension in facial expressions, posture, or subtle patterns of stress within the nervous system. When emotions are finally expressed and understood, the body gradually relaxes. The face softens, breathing becomes more natural, and the entire presence of the person appears lighter. What changes externally is often the visible result of an internal process of letting go. Emotional release does not erase the past, nor does it eliminate the complexity of human feeling. Instead, it allows the individual to carry their experiences without being controlled by them. The psyche becomes less burdened by unresolved tension and more open to the present moment. In this openness, energy that was once trapped in emotional resistance becomes available again for growth, creativity, and connection with life itself. Healthy solitude is often misunderstood in a world that constantly encourages social connection and external validation. Many people associate being alone with loneliness, isolation, or emotional withdrawal. Yet solitude, when approached consciously, can become a powerful source of psychological renewal. It offers a rare opportunity for the mind to step away from the noise of expectations, opinions, and constant interaction. In this quiet space, the individual encounters something that is often neglected in daily life, their own inner world. Human beings spend a significant portion of their lives responding to external demands. Conversations, responsibilities, social roles, and digital distractions continuously pull attention outward. While these interactions are necessary, they can slowly distance a person from their own thoughts and emotions. Healthy solitude creates a pause in this outward movement. It allows awareness to turn inward, where reflection and self-understanding can quietly unfold. In these moments of aloneness, a person begins to hear the subtle voice of their own mind, a voice that is often drowned out by the constant activity of social life. Within solitude, the psyche has space to reorganize itself. Thoughts that were once scattered begin to form connections. Emotions that were pushed aside during busy routines finally surface and become visible. This process is not always comfortable, but it is deeply important. When individuals regularly allow themselves time alone, they develop the ability to observe their inner landscape without fear or distraction. Instead of avoiding their thoughts, they learn to sit with them, examine them, and understand the patterns that shape their behavior. Healthy solitude also strengthens a person's sense of independence. When someone constantly relies on external approval or companionship to feel secure, their emotional stability becomes fragile. Any absence of validation can create anxiety or uncertainty. However, individuals who are comfortable spending time alone gradually develop an internal foundation. They realize that their sense of identity does not depend entirely on how others perceive them. This realization creates a quiet confidence that remains steady even in the absence of social affirmation. Another important aspect of solitude is its connection to creativity and imagination. When the mind is not occupied with constant conversation or external stimulation, it begins to wander more freely. Ideas emerge that may have remained hidden during moments of distraction. The imagination becomes active, exploring possibilities and forming new insights about life. Profound realizations occur not during busy interaction, but during silent reflection. Solitude becomes a space where the mind can explore deeper questions and unexpected perspectives. Spending time alone also improves emotional awareness. In social environments, people often adjust their behavior to fit expectations, sometimes ignoring their genuine reactions. Solitude removes this pressure. Without the presence of others, the individual can experience emotions without needing to explain or justify them. This freedom allows feelings to become clearer and more understandable. Gradually, the person learns to recognize their emotional patterns and respond to them with greater awareness. Over time, this relationship with solitude shapes the entire psychological atmosphere of a person. They appear calmer, less reactive, and more centered in their own presence. Their interactions with others become more genuine because they are not driven by a constant need for approval or distraction. Solitude does not separate them from the world. Instead, it strengthens their connection to it by ensuring that their actions emerge from inner clarity rather than unconscious pressure. Authentic living begins with a quiet but profound recognition that many of the roles people perform in life are shaped by expectations rather than genuine inner truth. From early childhood, individuals are gradually introduced to social standards that define what is acceptable, successful, or admirable. Over time, these expectations can become so deeply embedded that a person may begin to confuse them with their own identity. Without realizing it, they start living according to what others value rather than what truly resonates with their inner nature. Authentic living emerges when a person slowly becomes aware of this difference and begins to realign their life with what feels psychologically true. This process requires a deep level of self-awareness. It involves observing one's own thoughts, desires, and reactions without immediately judging them or forcing them to fit external standards. Many individuals suppress parts of themselves because they fear rejection or misunderstanding. They may hide their interests, silence their opinions, or follow paths that bring approval rather than fulfillment. While this strategy can create temporary harmony with society, it often produces an inner conflict. The psyche becomes divided between the person one truly is and the image one feels obligated to present to the world. Authentic living gradually dissolves this division. Instead of maintaining multiple layers of social masks, the individual begins to bring their external behavior into alignment with their inner experience. This alignment does not mean rejecting society or ignoring the needs of others. Rather, it means participating in life without abandoning one's core identity. When actions, beliefs, and emotions begin to move in the same direction, the mind experiences a sense of coherence. Energy that was once spent maintaining appearances becomes available for growth, creativity, and genuine connection. Another important aspect of authenticity is the courage to face one's own complexity. Human beings are not simple or perfectly consistent. Within every individual exist different impulses, contradictions, and hidden motivations. Authentic living does not require a person to appear flawless. Instead, it invites them to acknowledge these inner layers with honesty. When individuals accept their strengths as well as their limitations, they become less dependent on maintaining an idealized image. This acceptance creates psychological stability because the person is no longer constantly defending a fragile version of themselves. Authenticity also changes the way a person relates to others. Relationships built on social masks often remain superficial because they are based on carefully constructed impressions rather than genuine understanding. When someone lives authentically, their presence becomes more transparent. They communicate their thoughts and emotions with greater sincerity, which encourages others to respond in the same way. This honesty deepens relationships, replacing surface-level interaction with meaningful connection. Living authentically also reduces a significant source of internal stress. When a person constantly behaves in ways that contradict their inner values, the mind experiences subtle but persistent tension. Over time, this tension can manifest as frustration, exhaustion, or emotional numbness. Authentic living removes much of this strain by allowing behavior to flow naturally from personal conviction rather than external pressure. The individual no longer needs to monitor every action to ensure it aligns with expectations. As this alignment strengthens, the entire presence of the person begins to change. Their expressions become more relaxed, their decisions more confident, and their interactions more genuine. There is a quiet sense of ease that emerges when the inner self no longer feels hidden or divided. Authentic living does not eliminate life as challenges, but it allows a person to face them with integrity, carrying a sense of unity between who they are within and how they exist in the world. Detachment from stress begins with a shift in how a person interprets the events of life. Many individuals unconsciously absorb every difficulty, criticism, and conflict as if it were a direct reflection of their identity. When something goes wrong, they internalize the experience deeply, replaying it in their thoughts and allowing it to shape their emotional state for long periods of time. Over time, this habit creates a constant sense of psychological pressure. The mind becomes crowded with worries, regrets, and imagined outcomes, each one demanding attention and emotional energy. Detachment does not mean indifference or a lack of care. It is not the act of ignoring responsibilities or pretending that challenges do not exist. Instead, it is the ability to create a small but powerful distance between oneself and the emotional intensity of a situation. This distance allows the mind to observe events rather than immediately becoming overwhelmed by them. When a person learns to pause before reacting, they begin to recognize that many situations are temporary and do not require prolonged emotional investment. Human perception often exaggerates the importance of certain moments. A single criticism can feel like a permanent judgment, and a small failure can appear as if it defines the entire future. When the mind becomes trapped in this exaggerated perspective, stress multiplies rapidly. Detachment allows the individual to step back and see the broader picture. They begin to understand that many of the situations that once felt overwhelming will eventually pass, leaving behind only the lessons they carried. This perspective gradually transforms the way the psyche processes pressure. Instead of reacting to every external stimulus with equal intensity, the individual becomes more selective about where their energy goes. Not every disagreement deserves emotional turmoil, and not every mistake needs to become a source of long-term self-criticism. When people recognize this, they reclaim a sense of control over their inner state. The world may continue presenting challenges, but those challenges no longer dictate the atmosphere of their mind. Detachment from stress is also closely connected to awareness of the present moment. Stress often grows from the mind, as tendency to project itself into the future or repeatedly analyze the past. People imagine potential disasters that have not yet occurred, or they revisit past events that cannot be changed. This constant mental movement creates tension because the mind tries to solve problems that exist only in thought. When someone practices detachment, they begin to anchor their awareness more firmly in the present. By focusing on what can actually be addressed now, the mind releases much of the unnecessary pressure created by endless speculation. Another important element of detachment is the understanding that not everything lies within personal control. Many aspects of life are shaped by circumstances, other people as decisions, and unpredictable changes. When individuals attempt to control every outcome, they often experience frustration and exhaustion. Detachment introduces a more balanced approach. A person continues to act responsibly and thoughtfully, but they also accept that certain results must unfold naturally. As this mindset becomes stronger, the entire emotional landscape of the person begins to change. Situations that once triggered immediate anxiety start to feel more manageable. Their reactions slow down, allowing reflection to replace impulsive tension. Over time, the mind develops a steady resilience that protects it from the constant pressure that many people carry unconsciously. This calm detachment does not remove challenges from life, but it prevents those challenges from taking permanent residence within the psyche. Psychological harmony emerges when the different dimensions of a person's inner life begin to move in cooperation rather than conflict. Within every human mind exist many layers, thoughts, emotions, desires, fears, memories, and values. These elements often develop at different times and under different circumstances, which means they do not always agree with one another. A person may believe in one direction intellectually while emotionally feeling drawn toward another. They may pursue goals that society praises while quietly sensing that those goals do not reflect their deeper nature. When these internal forces pull against each other, the psyche experiences tension that gradually drains mental and emotional energy. Harmony begins when an individual becomes aware of these inner contradictions instead of ignoring them. Many people attempt to silence certain parts of themselves because they seem inconvenient or uncomfortable. Yet whatever is rejected within the psyche rarely disappears. It often returns through anxiety, dissatisfaction, or an unexplained sense that something in life feels misaligned. Psychological harmony requires a willingness to observe these hidden layers with honesty. Instead of forcing the mind into a rigid structure, the individual gradually learns to understand the motives and emotions that exist beneath the surface. As awareness deepens, the person begins to notice how their thoughts influence their emotions and how their emotions shape their behavior. When beliefs, feelings and actions move in different directions, confusion arises. A person may speak about values they do not truly live by, or they may pursue ambitions that leave them emotionally empty. This disconnection creates subtle psychological friction. Harmony develops when these elements start aligning with one another. Thoughts reflect genuine beliefs, emotions are acknowledged rather than suppressed, and actions become expressions of the person as authentic intentions. This alignment does not happen suddenly. It often unfolds through reflection, experience, and gradual self-understanding. As individuals observe their reactions to different situations, they begin to recognize patterns in their inner world. They learn which environments support their well-being and which create unnecessary conflict. They also discover the values that genuinely guide their decisions rather than those adopted purely from external expectations. Through this process, the mind slowly reorganizes itself around a clearer sense of identity. Psychological harmony also involves acceptance of the complexity within human nature. People often imagine that inner balance means eliminating all negative thoughts or difficult emotions. In reality, harmony does not require perfection. Instead, it involves allowing different aspects of the psyche to coexist without constant resistance. Emotions such as doubt, frustration, or sadness become part of the broader human experience rather than enemies that must be suppressed. When these emotions are understood instead of rejected, they lose much of their power to disturb the mind. Another important dimension of harmony is consistency between inner awareness and outward behavior. When a person repeatedly acts against their deeper understanding, the mind experiences subtle dissonance. Over time, this dissonance can lead to exhaustion and emotional fragmentation. However, when decisions reflect inner clarity, the psyche begins to feel stable and integrated. The person no longer needs to maintain multiple identities in different situations. Their presence becomes unified, and their actions feel natural rather than forced. As this inner balance strengthens, it influences the way a person moves through life. Their reactions become calmer, their decisions more deliberate, and their relationships more genuine. There is a quiet sense of coherence that shapes their presence. Psychological harmony does not remove life as uncertainty, but it allows the individual to face that uncertainty with a stable inner center where thoughts, emotions, and actions support one another instead of pulling the mind apart. As we reflect on these hidden forces, it becomes clear that youthfulness is not merely written in the lines of the face or measured by the passing of years. It is something far more subtle, something that emerges from the invisible relationship between the mind, the heart, and the way a person chooses to live. When curiosity remains alive, the mind refuses to become rigid. When emotions are allowed to move freely, the psyche releases the weight of the past. When solitude becomes a place of reflection rather than loneliness, the inner world gains depth and clarity. A person who lives authentically no longer wastes energy maintaining masks that do not belong to them. Someone who learns to detach from unnecessary stress protects their inner peace from the constant turbulence of life. And when all these elements begin to align, psychological harmony quietly takes shape. In that harmony, the individual becomes integrated rather than divided, calm rather than burdened, and alive rather than merely existing. What we often interpret as youthful appearance is sometimes the outward reflection of this inner balance. The face softens. When the mind is no longer crowded by hidden conflicts, the eyes remain bright. When curiosity continues to search for meaning, the presence of a person feels lighter when they are not carrying unresolved tension within them. Time may continue its steady movement, but the individual who nurtures their inner world learns how to move with time rather than being crushed beneath it. So the real secret is not about resisting age, but about cultivating a life that remains psychologically alive. When a person continues to grow, to understand themselves, And to live with honesty and awareness, something within them stays untouched by the heaviness that time can bring. And in that quiet alignment between the inner and outer self, a rare kind of youthfulness naturally appears, one that no number can truly define.